All right, well, welcome everyone. I appreciate you coming today. It's so fun to learn kind of the new of kind of right on the cutting edge of kind of where we're at with this whole COVID and understanding long haul COVID and long haul vax and what the differences are, what the similarities are, and finding out how we can deal with that spike protein. And most important at the end is figuring out how we can detox the body to get rid of this stuff so it's no longer stuck in us and causing all the havoc. So I appreciate you being here today, and just kind of want to cover a couple things here. Let's see here. So some of you may or may not know about quantum techniques and the healing modality this is, but I'm a holistic health coach and I help people learn more about what's going on in their body, how they can get out of their symptoms so they can get their life back on track. And so both Steve and I are quantum technique practitioners, and Steve founded the company. And we are always learning more about how we can take care of our health and our bodies. And we've just kind of found that, COVID kind of like put a spoke in the wheel and kind of tripped everything up. But we've been always learning on finding out what is the most cutting edge thing to help our bodies be able to thrive. So we both have a story on how we have dealt with it and how it's impacted us. And I'm sure that our stories will resonate with your stories and learning how or what we can do to kind of help with that. So Steve, we're here to kind of learn from what you've experienced. So why don't you give us your story on kind of what you've experienced and what we can do?
Well, we've got 3 new scans. We're going to talk about 2 of them today. And I had a mild COVID experience, but then I had long haul COVID. And long haul COVID reactivated some old latent central nervous system Lyme's disease that I gotten under control, and Epstein-Barr virus. So I would easily say 3 of the hardest years of my life in terms of exhaustion, brain fog, pain, blood pressure, and blood clots. I'd never had any blood clot issues. Last year I had to have 5 vein surgeries in my leg because it blew up. Well, that kind of pain and suffering gets me pretty motivated to find answers. And it's one of the things I believe on a physical and spiritual level is that I can learn. And if something's not working, I don't have the full truth about what's going on. So I was just sent, one of our practitioners sent us an article today. Vaccinated people show long haul COVID-like symptoms off the Epoch News detectable spike proteins study. Well, they found exactly what I found. You can get long haul COVID from vaccinations, from never having COVID, or you can get long haul COVID and never had a vaccination, but the symptoms are about the same. And the experts, the medical experts, treat them the same way. So what was interesting to me is early January, I understood I cleared all my COVID viruses, but I still had post-COVID inflammation. And like for me, it was the blood clots in my leg, pain, exhaustion, brain fog. So I realized there's 1,200 COVID compounds. I don't see this with Lyme's, dengue fever, herpes, other things, but I do see it with COVID. So what was interesting is this year, in January, my right leg blew up, same leg. And it was an inch bigger than the left leg, the calf, and pain and swelling, and I couldn't walk on it. Before that meant a call to the doctor. I did call the doctor because they only come up here every 3 weeks, and I wasn't really interested in driving 2.5 hours. But then I did the COVID compound scan. And within 6 days, all the pain, swelling was completely gone. So there are 1,200 compounds, and I think that's because COVID's man-made. If you clear those, I've had even people that lost their sense of smell with long haul COVID, clear that, get it back. And so long haul COVID definitely, or vax, either way, they cause an inflammatory process. It's the cytokines, it's all this stuff. And if that's going on for you, it will reactivate any old inflammatory issues you had, autoimmune disease, like in my case, Lyme's, herpes, other old, I'll say, latent under control pathogens, and then create new things. Like I never had blood clots. I had never been EMF sensitive, but you know, I had a smart meter on my house after COVID. I had it pulled off. So that's one thing that has been a game changer for a lot of people. Jody, what was your experience with the COVID itself?
I had a pretty mild symptoms. I mean, I wouldn't say it was anything more than a cold or a flu. Omicron probably hit me a little bit more than anything else. And so my son got it, and so I was, nursing him, and then both me and my husband got it. And you're kind of like down for a day or two. And I was doing everything that I normally do. And after about 2 days, it kind of cleared up. And then it's like it kind of resurfaced. I kind of stopped taking some of the herbs and stuff to help with, and supplements that I found to be helpful, and remedies. And so it kind of came back. And so that's where it kind of lingered a little bit. And each time I've gotten it, which is after that was very mild, symptoms will just kind of linger sometimes. But nothing major. But I started noticing that I had an uptick of my weight. And so I've just gotten more inflammation, I would say, in my body. That's the way it feels. And in some ways, what I've experienced over the last, I would say, year, maybe 2 years, is I've been exposed to mold and it's impacted me more. Or
Right.
I've been exposed to EMF and it's impacted me more. So I'm pretty typical of being able to like say, oh yeah, I came across an ingestant, solve it. But if I come across this, solve it. And this time it's almost like I'm playing whack-a-mole with like, okay, well, there's that and that. And so it's like kind of hard to some ways keep up with the different symptoms that I've experienced. But at the same time, with everything we do, it kicks it down a little bit more and it gets a little more manageable. And so it's just, I think for me, I'm just so used to being able to stay on top of my health. And I've almost found like this one is like I said, playing whack-a-mole and trying to get back to a good homeostasis where I'm used to living. So that's been kind of what I've experienced.
It's interesting. Prior to COVID, long haul COVID, I got my weight down the lowest it'd been since I'd been like 20 years old. I got it down to 201. And that was over a year and a half time. With COVID, I couldn't walk, well, especially the blood clots. I couldn't walk like normal. I was walking, about maybe 2.5 miles once a day. But I was so exhausted, I was taking 2-hour naps a day, sometimes 3. Well, I'm now walking 3.5 miles twice a day. Something else that with the newer scans, I could never do any kind of intermittent fasting because of blood sugar. Well, now I intermittent fast afternoon. I don't eat until the next morning when I'm eating breakfast at 5. My weight got up to 227 in January. This morning it was 193. That's the lowest I've been since I was 19. And I think I'm going to be able to drop another 5 pounds. And it's like 3 pounds a week, just drops off. And the other thing is with the new scans besides COVID, my energy level and pain control and mental sharpness is the best it's been since my head injury at age 13. And, it's interesting, since 13, my life has been about managing pain in my head, neck, and shoulders. And then after I was living in a moldy house in grad school, it was managing migraines. And since the 5th, so the last 17 days, I have not had any headache whatsoever. That's more days without a headache than I've had in 53 years. And that's clearing that next level of detox that we're going to talk about. So these all go together, but kind of like Jody said, whatever you had before COVID, if you're going to have long haul COVID, it blows the lid off of it. You have inflammation in all different kinds of systems. And, it is also interesting that even before COVID, for the last 4 years, I would find live and dead, mostly Lyme's viruses, in my cerebral spinal fluid. Some of them going back to childhood. The last time I found any viruses in the cerebral spinal fluid, dead or alive, was the day before my last headache. Now, I'm still detoxing from one of the other new scans, viruses, and I'll have some tightness in my neck, feet, lower back, ligaments. It's going into the ligaments, but no headaches. And it's like, that's beyond my ability to believe, to be honest. I mean, I never thought that was possible. So we're kind of talking about some things that kind of border on miraculous. And I've had several clients that have been doing this work for about 2 weeks to 10 days, 2 weeks to 10 weeks, reporting the same thing in terms of cleaning up old stuff and new abilities. So it's all good.
Yeah, I was going to say some of the things that besides weight gain that I've experienced is it kind of started entering menopause right through 2020, which is probably not the greatest timing. And so my hypothalamus, which regulates my temperature, has kind of brought on hot flashes. And so dealing with, okay, is it menopause or is it the spike protein? And it's kind of like kind of fuzzy in some ways. So I've been working on that. The other symptoms I've had is brain fog. Sequencing, that's something that we've talked about, just you and me, and with our group. But I want other people to know what kind of symptoms that a lot of times you don't connect the dots on. And sequencing is one of them. Brain fog is another one. And it could be tingling of your extremities. Movement, anything that's kind of like that. And then obviously, anything that deals with the heart and not with the energy or the ability to do things because you're just too exhausted. So yeah, that one I haven't had myself but I haven't had any low energy whatsoever. But the other things I have, and sleeping, I've always been able to find out how to sleep better. And it's like, this one has definitely taken me a while, but what we've been doing has really helped me start getting my sleep back. So yeah, I can tell it's working.
Well, I didn't have the menopause thing going, but when I was detoxing, this second thing we're going to talk about, and it was detoxing my hypothalamus. I'm somebody that in the winter wears tank top and shorts and barefoot. I just don't get cold. And this happened like once a week for 6 weeks. I would detox through the hypothalamus and I would literally be freezing. I put on polypros top and bottom jackets, sit in front of my fireplace, freezing all night long. And then once that clears, oh, my temperature's regulated. I'm doing great for another week. And then I'd release another layer. So I did go through a cerebral spinal fluid detox, hypothalamus, eyes, skin, mucosal linings, and ligaments. So it's kind of interesting how the body goes through certain things that need healing.
Yeah, I do also, I'm glad you mentioned the mucosal lining, because a lot of times people have also gotten more sensitive to their different foods that they're eating. And that is a huge thing about, not the taste and the smell, but also just the whole microbiome, the mucosal lining of the whole intestines is just off. And I mean, I think there's like maybe almost like 4 weeks where it just was off, and trying to every food that I kind of ate was kind of impacting me at some level. So that's another symptom that a lot of our clients have that we've been through.
Well, I've had, like I say, several people that we've done the, COVID compound on that got rid of all their, post-COVID or post-vax inflammation within like 2-3 weeks. So that's been pretty helpful.
Yeah. And I know they said, when this thing first all started, that they were concerned that it was going to create, autoimmunity. And, I did a part 1, which kind of just said, autoimmunity is just a name. And it's because it's what they don't understand. It's just, rampant inflammation, and the body doesn't know what to take care of, whether it's their own organs, glands, or tissues, or it's the pathogen or toxin that it's in those organ, glands, and tissues. And so it just kind of goes after everything and tries to fight it. And that's what autoimmunity is. And so, but yeah, it's just anytime we have inflammation that they just don't quite understand, they kind of put that label on it. And the other one they're putting on it is the chronic fatigue syndrome, which is what we've talked about when you're really, really tired. So it's mimicking a lot of these things in anything with neuropathy, which is all the nerves and things like that. It's mimicking those three things. And so that's why they're kind of labeling those. So if you hear those labels, that's kind of what they're talking about and what we're addressing.
I was just reviewing that article. I read it this morning, but we pretty much covered all of that. Yeah. But it's nice to be able to do that quickly and easily with an energy treatment that maybe takes 10, 15 minutes versus, I mean, they're treating it with medications and supplements, but that's a lot slower process. Yeah.
So anything you want to tell us in regards to more about the scan, or also any with detox or?
Well, I didn't have, and I have not had a client that had a rough detox just clearing COVID compounds. I've not had, because at that point, you're not clearing old men, well, other than the compounds. You're not dealing with clearing heavy metals or pesticides or pathogens. It's just simply, and the compounds are already in the body. So you just, like we clear every other toxin, you clear it the same way. But it's fast, effective. I'm sure there'll be somebody who will have a little trouble with it, but I haven't had them yet. And I've probably done that on 100 people, maybe more. But that dovetails into the new deeper detox scan.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, they all fit together. So do you want to talk about that, or do you want to share with something else first?
Well, I was just curious if anybody has some questions as we're,
Okay.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions. Anything we've talked about, or maybe symptoms you have or questions about that, you can just raise your hand, or you can go unmute. I think if I put you on unmute, you can unmute yourself. And I can put in the chat how to get a hold of us to do a session. I had chat up here before, now it's disappeared.
Hey, unmuted.
There we go.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Sherilyn, and I'm curious about your take on thyroid. People that take daily thyroid medication, how does that change anything? Do you know?
About COVID or just in general?
Doing a scan, you mean?
If you have the scan, does it? Well, let's even back up. How do you think COVID affects thyroid function so that your medicine might not be correct anymore? And then B, what you found out with the detox and so forth using your new scan?
COVID affects everything, especially if you had a thyroid problem before, it often makes it worse.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the compounds block the actual medication. I know the virus blocks medications like all viruses do. So, but I also know the deeper detox scan goes after all organ glands and tissues and all cell surface receptors that are involved. You know, for example, doing those two scans, I don't take a lot of medication, but my blood pressure they weren't controlling it well. It's dropped 50 points in both ends, and I'm taking 1/4 the medication. I haven't had to take any headache medicine for 21 days, which again, that's a new record. So when you start cleaning off the detox scan and what that does to cell surface receptors, everything works better. It's almost like I say, I turned 70, in March. I can't remember a time in my life that I felt this good physically or emotionally. My mind's been this clear, my energy's been this good. And the last time I was not in chronic pain was before the head injury at age 13. So it's kind of like it's a fountain of youth in some ways, in terms of just energy and stamina. But it makes sense, so much of what we call, quote, natural aging is just the toxicity of man-made or pathogens building up in the body. The body can't see them, can't get rid of them, and they're blocking the key cell surface receptors of the endocrine system. Well, all of them, but the endocrine system especially. It's interesting, you know. Well, 4 years ago, they had me taking some testosterone shots because the levels were low. Well, after I had blood clots, they don't want you to take that anymore. And that's fine. I mean, I don't have any problems with it, but I'm going to do, my doc wanted to follow up blood studies in about 3 weeks. And I asked him specifically, I want you to test the testosterone levels because I think they're back to normal, because I've actually gained 3 pounds of muscle in my testing this year and lost 30 pounds. So I'll be interested. I'll report back next time, you know, did the testosterone come back up? So it's just kind of interesting, because I know my human growth hormone testosterone on testing our way is back to normal when it wasn't before. And my endorphins are so much higher than they were before. So
along the way, I've done lots of COVID clearing, like no matter what scan I'm doing, no matter what codes I'm using, when I get all finished, I say at least one COVID code will clear me. And I find that repeatedly, it's sort of like you set yourself up to find COVID again once you remove the layer that was in the way. And this week I'm going to have a thyroid test to see if I still need my thyroid medication, because it tested that I did not need to take it energetically. And I had the initial one done after I didn't take it that morning, the first morning that I decided not to take medicine. And that's the scan or the blood test that looked okay.
Okay.
And now I haven't taken any for over a week, and I'm going to have another blood test to see if indeed it's the flow of my own function has happened enough.
Right.
So I did have radioactive iodine when I was 42. I'm 73. So, you know, who knows all the variables that we're talking about. But
Sure.
I'm just interested in what you're saying about the hormone levels,
Right.
recalibrating, and then perhaps, you know, being normal.
Yeah.
If that's maybe the route I'm going. And so just sounds
Yeah.
good.
Very possible.
Think so. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Do you guys have any other questions? Well, Steve, did you have another subject that you wanted to cover? We talked a little.
Yeah. You know, I got to be honest. I'm more excited about this scan than anything I've been given in 26 years. And once I describe it, it's like, oh yeah, why didn't we think about that, right? It makes all the sense in the world. But, you know, I'm what I call a good client. Good clients don't eat crap, you know, they don't have Glade plugins, and they don't live in a moldy house. And I don't get sick. I mean, other than COVID, I think I've had 2 viruses. One of them was COVID since I moved here 5 years ago, because you know, I'm pretty isolated in Arizona. The bugs, you know, we don't have any humidity, so they get killed pretty quick. But yet I had a lot of chronic things that never healed. And so if you think about it, I'm not getting new pathogens or toxins in my body, but some things not healing. Several things are not healing. So what's going on? Well, what I found is you have categories of pathogens or toxins that are hidden from the body. The body can't detox them. And if they're hidden, some of those pathogens are going to be alive. Okay. Creating that field and clearing it takes maybe 10 minutes. It takes typically 2 weeks to clear. Some clear, some take a little longer, but usually 2 weeks. At the end of 2 weeks, I have people call me. It takes, again, 5 to 10 minutes. I check. About 50% have another layer. And let's say, like in my case, when I was doing this, what came up was like, I don't know, like 1,400 viruses. Some of these went all the way back to early childhood. Okay, and some of them were alive, some of them were dead. That was my one, I only had one category. Well, 2 weeks later, it was, instead of this whole field that I found it in, it was only 3 or 4 organs. And there was like, instead of 1,400, there was like 13 viruses. Cleared that. Now, the categories I've seen, most common virus, okay, bacteria, fungal, bites, also anesthesias, medications, heavy metals. So far, I've not found, but again, I haven't had clients that had this issue, mycoplasma or parasites. But and then once we do that, and that's completely clear, there's another scan that we can do that's also, I don't see any the deeper detox. You can have some healing crisis. If my clients are having a healing crisis, I say, give me a call or email me. I can clear it in 5 or 6 minutes. The second scan after that, it's typically a one-time scan. And it's, again, I would say 6 to 8 minutes. And that one really affects immunity, pain, inflammation, brain fog, sequencing, anxiety, depression, and stress. And what was interesting when I did that third one, which we'll leave it as a teaser and maybe talk about it next time, is when I was, they were doing the leg blood clot procedure, they tried me on medication, which I don't do well on. And I went off it within 3 weeks because I would wake up bloody in bed inside of my right leg and my neck from scratching. I could control it during the day, but not at night. So I got off of that and went on nanokinase, which is much better and no problems. But I think because I had scratched so much, I had pain, scabs, redness, inflammation in those areas and itching. And so I've treated it with various things and it kept it under control, but it wasn't gone. The day that this third field cleared, the next day, all the skin healed completely. So it was detoxing through the skin, both the major detox and then the third level that we'll talk about next time was detoxing through the skin. And for me, it was, again, old viruses would not allow that opportunistic bacteria that had come to the skin, when I was scratching, to heal. So both of them have a lot to do with healing more than just what you think it's going to be. And again, it's like, if I muscle test myself, compared to last year, my metabolic rate is 3 times what it was last year. And I mean, that's like, I've got a lot more energy. I mean, and I got energy to go all day. I've taken 1 nap in January, and that was when I was up all night with hypothalamus field, and I only slept half hour, but I don't think I could take a nap during the day anymore because I've got too much energy. My dog looks at me and says, "Dad, we're not going to go on a third walk. We've already done 7.5 miles. And it's like, I'm not going again. You can go if you want, but I'm staying here, so I have to ease up, and I can't do 3 walks a day." She said, "That's too much." So I feel very blessed with this new stuff and how it's affecting me.
Yeah, and I know, I've gone through, some of the treatment and I cleared the first layer. But I have a feeling that third layer of detox is something that I need to, call you on, because I can tell it's unwrapping, but there's still like this little layer. But like I said, I'm sleeping better. I'm still waiting for the inflammation to kind of go down the body. But I've been doing castor oil packs to kind of help with that, and I've definitely noticed I'm having more detox than I thought I had. So I know that it's still stuck there, and that's where that whole getting rid of the inflammation is going to be really helpful.
Well, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, when they were doing the vein procedures, they, obviously sedation, anesthesias, and I cleared all that a long time ago. And when this last third layer, which is a cannabinoid field, we'll talk about that. When that was clearing out, my left arm from the hand down went numb, ice cold and numb. And I checked, oh yeah, one of those anesthesias decided to clear it, was coming up. So I just cleared it, and within 45 minutes, it was back normal. But see, I mean, that's an example of where does this detox go? It's going to go where the body wants it to go.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because I have that, issue on my elbow where I got bit by other mosquitoes and stuff like that. And it just flares up every so often, but it's like 99% better, but then this morning it ached a little bit and it's like, okay, I know I'm detoxing there.
Well, and if you think this makes sense, if you're real reactive to bites, you're reactive because you have a bunch of old bites that have never cleared.
Or the procedure that I had with IVF, which is
Right. And if you're real reactive anesthesia, it's because you have old anesthesia that didn't clear. And if your immune system's down where you catch viruses very easily and you have a tough time, guess what? You're going to have old viruses, live and dead, that never cleared. If you're sensitive to mold, but yet we're not finding in the active scan, you're going to find old mold frequencies, dead or alive, that haven't cleared. The nice thing is this clears them quickly without lots and lots of treatments. And I mean, the main detox one, it can cause, I didn't have migraines from it, but, pain and stiffness, as I was clearing stuff. But even though I was having pain and stiffness, that was so much better than what everything had been before. So.
all right. Well, good. I kind of explained a little bit what you're doing. And so I didn't know if anybody had any questions from what we talked about in the second area here. Yeah.
Yeah. Two quick questions. One is I wanted to ask Steve, how much nattokinase were you taking that helped with the blood clots when you got off the medication?
I was taking 4,000 FUs a day, and the one I bought on Amazon, it's by Double Wood Supplements. It's 200 milligrams is what it is per serving. So I was taking 200 milligram tablet. And the medications like Eliquis, they put me on, it was a 10 of toxicity and 1 of helpfulness. Anything that's that toxic is not going to work. Nattokinase was a 0 harm, a 10 of helpfulness.
Yeah.
So the doctor would say, are you still taking your blood thinner? I said, sure. Just didn't tell him which one.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask, this is hard for me to ask you, but I know when COVID was really happening, you were doing little mini free scans for people to see if they had COVID. I haven't been able to afford to do QT for the last 15 years. I'm living on Social Security and food stamps. Is there any way to have something to deal with long COVID stuff that wouldn't cost you guys regular fees?
Well, I would say this, a long COVID scan would take less than 10 minutes. I mean, it's very quick, and I'm saying less.
Okay.
So you're talking probably a 7 to 8 minute treatment. So it'd be really fast. I know I've raised my fee once in 26 years. So, and I've gotten a lot faster.
I've tried for certainly. I know a lot of my earlier treatments were always, 60 minutes, 40 minutes, and
Right.
I've done pretty good at getting them down to, 12, 20.
Right.
Thank you for your question. Any others? All right, well, great. Well, we're thinking about next month also doing a kind of a part 3 and kind of talk a little bit more about the detox and the cannabinoids scan and how that works into that. So I look forward to you coming back and listening to that. And if you have any more questions, you're certainly welcome to send me an email at Jody@QuantumTechniques. And I'd love to do a session with you to try to clear these out so that you can stop having all the symptoms of COVID and long haul COVID and COVID vax. But yeah, it's definitely time to get your health back, because it just gets so frustrating just being not feeling every day. And for me, it was like I don't like feeling just like, okay, why am I having all this? You know, the whole whack-a-mole thing. It's just like, okay, let's get to the bottom of this and not have it keep going on and on. So that's why I think it's really important. So
Jody, the one thing I've asked people to do on a detox scan,
Mhm.
if they'll email me, what are all the chronic issues
Mhm.
that don't go away or get better, but they don't stay away? Because then I can address, and I have the email in front of me, so it doesn't take, they don't have to spend the time on the phone with me. And I can address all of them in the same scan.
That's fine. Yeah, that really is helpful. And if you know, a lot of times if you haven't filled out a client request in a while, sometimes it's helpful to kind of get your full history again and see that. So that's sometimes very helpful also. So I want to stay connected with you. You know, I've got a Facebook presence. Jody, did you have a question? Wait, I need to put you off mute here.
Yeah, I was curious about the connection between Epstein-Barr and COVID, like the relapse or symptoms.
If you've had COVID or if you've had Epstein-Barr or Lyme's and you get COVID, it reactivates it. It's that quick. I mean, it's like a done deal. But the long haul COVID scan will clear that where the Epstein-Barr can heal.
Have you
Yeah.
seen like MS symptoms come forth or from that, or no?
From COVID, no, but I haven't worked with very many MS patients since COVID. I've had worked with a lot before, but I'll bet you the new detox scan, because in the past when I've had great success with MS, now that always depended. If somebody was already in a wheelchair, we could probably arrest it but not reverse it.
Yeah.
But if I think with it, but I didn't have this new detox scan, because every single time MS was a toxicity field. So I'll bet you we could do things now that we couldn't do before. And a lot of times, unless the body says don't, which I haven't seen yet, I'll do the COVID compound scan and that first layer detox in one session. And again, you're talking like 15 minutes. It's very quick. Yeah.
Yeah, good question. And I too, had a resurgence of some of the old symptoms of Epstein-Barr. It didn't last long because it was not, I mean, it was there, but I was able to clear it really well. So, everybody has a different thing. And what I found is that sometimes it would activate one thing and then it would go away for a while. And then it would activate something else that was that you had before in your past. And it wasn't like one of the things like sometimes you were regressing backward. It was just, you had that at age, 7, and then you went back to age 18, and so that's why I said it was just kind of a whack-a-mole where things would show up. And so I just always want to give our clients the help of saying, you're not going nuts. You're not not being difficult. It's just that your body has different areas that are being concentrated or being pushed with that spike protein. And it just happens to show up at that time. And then next time it goes to someplace else. And so, but that's what I love about what we do, because we dialogue with the body to find out, okay, what's going on. We have a question that came in. It says, any thoughts on the new, let's see, epidemic coming down the pipeline like bird flu? I know they say something about syndrome X.
I haven't heard of it or know anything about that. Yeah.
I kind of think they're talking about it, trying to get people riled up again. And we dealt with bird flu and swine flu, 2009, so, I mean, we still have codes, to help with that. But we know so much more now about how the body functions and works. So yeah, I think it's kind of the same animal, just a different name.
I think they want to get Fauci back in the masks and government lockdowns. That's probably driving it.
Yeah. We're not going out of your house to go vote.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so we do have a presence on YouTube and Facebook. And so we would just, love you to continue to connect with us, to learn more, to be able to understand a little bit more about what we do. And I'd love to do a session with you to, work on clearing these. And so, like I said, next month, we're going to do part 3 And so we look forward to you coming. And if you can't attend, we can always send you the replay. So yeah, so if anybody doesn't have any other questions, we look forward to seeing you next month. And just appreciate you coming and learning more about, how this body's working and what we can do to help it be as healthy as possible.
Well, you guys have a blessed month and good healthy healing, and got some new stuff that's got some juice to it. So
Yes.
take care.
All right. Blessings, guys.
Bye-bye.